Hi, I'm Keon Sabb, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. This is so special.
Unmatched on-track intensity.
We gotta go.
And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Throw in a can't-miss concert, camping, and the legendary atmosphere of Talladega Boulevard. And you've got more than a race. You've got Talladega. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you in our studio in Tuscaloosa as we start week 2 of the Alabama football season. Usually how it goes on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. A lot of our show on Tuesday, we look back at the Western Kentucky game or the previous game, and then look ahead on our Thursday show to what's coming up for the Crimson Tide this week, the South Florida Bulls. So we got a very busy show coming up, and we'll start with looking at what's coming up, and plus our headlines, thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us the smart board to go through everything coming up on the show today. First things first, we'll talk to the SEC Defensive Player of the Week and Keon Sabb. 2 interceptions early in the ball game, helping the Crimson Tide get that shutout win against Western Kentucky. So we'll have a one-on-one conversation with Keon Sabb. Then I'll look back at our booth cam highlights from the Western Kentucky game. The Yay Alabama booth cam was a hit once again, streaming live during the ball game on Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube, and we enjoyed all the big moments. Alabama had 9 touchdowns, some great defensive plays. You'll get to see all the moments from our booth cam highlights. The voice of so many of those booth cam highlights, Chris Stewart. He will join us to preview what's coming up tomorrow with Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, plus get his thoughts on Alabama's season opening win. Then we'll go back in time just a little bit by talking with our Alabama Legend of the Week, Blake Sims. He's going to be one of the honorary captains for this Saturday's game against South Florida. It was 10 years ago. Alabama, with Blake Sims at the helm, won the SEC championship. That team will be celebrated coming up, along with really all letter winners from the Nick Saban era. So a great conversation with Blake Sims. Then we'll take you back to Vestavia Hills, Baumhower's last night. We had a fun time with Crimson Tide Rewind. Corey Reamer and I teaming up for the first Crimson Tide Rewind show of the year. We always have about a 5-minute segment called Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind, taking a look back at all of our fun from Baumhower's. Crimson Tide football team, 63-0. We love that debut against Western Kentucky as Alabama picks up the shutout victory to start the Kalen DeBoer era. He got the game ball from Jalen Milroe afterwards in the locker room. What a moment for him. Keon Sabb, those 2 interceptions. He is our SEC Defensive Player of the Week. You'll hear from him in just a few moments. Then Ryan Williams, 2 touchdown catches for the Crimson Tide. What a debut from somebody that should still be at Saraland High School. Only 17 years old. He is the SEC Freshman of the Week, or I'm going to go ahead and ruin one of Chris Stewart's jokes earlier. He's the SEC Senior in High School of the Week. Great honors for Ryan Williams. And then coming up this Saturday, of course, a 6 p.m. kickoff against the South Florida Bulls. Our radio airtime will be 3 o'clock, getting us started from Vector Security Champions Lane. Crimson Tide soccer, they're rolling right now. Last Thursday called a lot of goals as Alabama beat FAU by an 8-2 final score, 2 goals each for Gianna Paul and Nadia Ramadan. This past Sunday, a 4-0 victory against USM. Once again, Gianna Paul scored, and with that, she has been named the SEC Forward of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week. Great honor for Gianna Paul. Now, Alabama closing out a homestand. Now, this week they're going on the road for a Big Ten road trip. First at Purdue coming up on Thursday, and then at Michigan coming up on Sunday. So great preparation as we're only about 3 weeks away, really less than that, 2.5 weeks away from the start of SEC play. Volleyball team off to a winning start, challenged in the first match against Grambling State, but after that, posting a win against Grambling State and then wins over the Citadel as well as UT Martin. This week they're going to Alabama State for the Collegiate Cup on campus in Montgomery, taking on Prairie View A&M, Alabama State, and then Arizona. So a good winning start as well for Rashinda Reed and the Crimson Tide volleyball team. A couple of reminders, we're going to go through the full map of Vector Security Champions Lane coming up on our Thursday show, but here's a look at what's coming up. Smith Distillery performing coming up this week against USF, and then don't forget for that Georgia Georgia game on September 28th. Lauren Elena will be here along with David Lewis, so a great show coming up with her, and then Easton Corbin coming up later in October. Smith Distillery, Jake Matthew, a few appearances as well. Vector Security Champions Lane, that is the place to be before each and every Alabama football game. Keon Sabb, he's the man on defense right now. 2 interceptions, a great debut for him wearing crimson after he was wearing the maize and blue for the University of Michigan. We talk about that transition and more in our one-on-one conversation with Keon Sabb. Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. We're back at Bryant-Denny Stadium inside the Advantage Center at our podcast studio. I'm Roger Hoover. Now, please be joined by Alabama defensive back Keon Sabb, who had 2 interceptions for the Crimson Tide in the win against Western Kentucky. And Keon, Roll Tide. First of all, welcome to Alabama. How have you enjoyed it so far?
I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been a really fun experience so far. Continue to see how far it goes, yeah.
Well, we're certainly excited to see you on the field for the first time in a Crimson Tide jersey and maybe not playing against the University of Alabama. How has that transition been, going from Michigan, who you played with and beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl last year, to now being a member of this program?
It's been an interesting, different transition. The players and the coaches made it a lot easier. Just everybody being accepting to me. Some people may have thought it would have been a little tension, me coming from a different school, but it was all love. We ended up getting really close, so I think it was a really good thing.
Yeah, how important was that? When did you arrive in Tuscaloosa? Were you able to go through spring practice?
Yes, I arrived around February, and I got to do spring, so I got right in right away, got a chance to acclimate with the team. So by the time camp came around, I wasn't like a new face anymore.
And, of course, you're getting to know Coach DeBoer and this coaching staff just like everybody else, even if they played for Alabama last year. Just how is the coaching staff bonded with the players?
I think it's a really unique experience on what we have as between coaches and players. It's really like a players team, but the coaches they're so involved, and I feel like they just help and guide us make the right decisions as well as they're making the right decisions as well. I think it's just a really kind of chiller, mood out there. It's really fun though. It's really fun.
How do you like playing for Coach Linguist?
I love it. Yeah, Coach Mo, he's a great coach. Always teach me something. I feel like I can always learn from him at some point.
Of course, he's your secondary coach, Kane Womack, your defensive coordinator. What does it say about Alabama? Those guys left Division I head coaching jobs to be here.
It says a lot about the University of Alabama, what a historical place this is, that people do what they did to come here and get a coaching job. So I'm sure they're all into it for sure.
Have you liked this swarm defense style?
Yeah, Swarm D. I love it. That's our motto, and that's what we stick to. That's what we go by.
What do you feel like's your role in this defense?
Just being another leader in the secondary. Just being a guy that guys can depend on. Just being able to do my job at all times, so guys can look up to me and ask me any questions. And I'm an open book. I'm always ready to help.
You got your first Alabama experience on Saturday, but you mentioned some young guys. They got their first just college football experience in that ball game, especially in the second half. What'd you make of the newcomers in their debut?
They handled it amazing. I couldn't even imagine how good they did it. It was a lot different for my first time, but those guys went out there and handled business and made some really big plays.
And what does it say, too, about Red Morgan, the fact he's able to get on the field this quickly?
He's beyond his years. Talent. He's super talented, and he's learning the football side of it, so the sky's the limit for him, for sure.
Well, the defense certainly with some big plays early for the Crimson Tide with your 2 interceptions. Just walk us through, first of all, that first interception.
The first interception, just eyeing the quarterback down, trying to give him different looks to make him feel like it's kind of a different look than he thought. Opened up a way he might have thought I was taking a guy in man and ended up breaking off into, right into the pick. He kind of threw it right to me. Coach put me in a great position. We worked it all week. So it was a really good one.
And then how about the second interception?
The second one, it was a little different. Another opportunity for the coach to put me in a really good position. And I just felt like I read the quarterback's eyes. He made it stay on the route a little too long, and I ended up jumping it and went from there.
Everybody on Swarm D wants that turnover belt. What did it mean when you got to lift it up? Not once, but twice.
Oh, it was amazing. Once I figured out the turnover belt was, I always wanted to get a chance to put it on, just have it across my shoulder or being able to just take the picture with the guys.
That's really good to see. As again, you've played some at Michigan. Now you're coming to Alabama. You also come in with an established leader in the secondary in Malachi Moore. How do you see him as a captain impact this team? He's
a special player for our team. He's really like one of the guys, one of the hearts of our team. He leads us through everything, workouts, meetings, anything we got, he's always a guy in the front of the line, teaching guys, helping guys along, and you know the standard for sure. He knows it.
And then for you, going through fall camp, practicing against Alabama's wide receivers all camp long, how much did that make you better and more prepared for what we saw last Saturday?
It made me so much better. I feel like I'm a way different player from in the spring till now. Just being able to compete against the top guys in the country day in and day out in practice. So I hope they elevated my game, and I hope I elevated theirs as well.
Of course, you got the honor, SEC Defender of the Week, SEC Freshman of the Week, Ryan Williams. Have you gone up against him much, and did anything about his performance surprise you Saturday?
I wouldn't say the performance surprised me. The kid is super talented, one of the most talented players I've seen for sure. And the sky's the limit for him as well. By the time he gets the end of this season or wherever, everybody's going to know his name as if they don't already know.
And then how about competing against Jalen Milroe? What do you say out of him?
Super talented guy. You know, we got talented guys all across the roster. It's a little different from seeing it in the game into now in practice. I try to take a piece of information from him every day. We sit right next to each other, and Ryan in the locker room is to my left and Jalen's to my right. So I always try to take a little piece from both of them and learn as much as I can.
Now you're getting into game week after the Western Kentucky game is over. Something that's a little new around here is a Sunday practice. What are those practices like as you guys try to bounce back the day after the game?
It's like the 24-hour rule. Coach DeBoer harped it a lot. Just being able to have the game the next day, see it on tape, you know, and not lingering throughout the week. You get the film done. You get everything out of your system, everything you need out of it, all the positives and negatives, and you get to be able to start the week faster. On that Monday, you're already ready to go on the next team. We already talked about it on Sunday night, like, all right, this is the film that we're going to watch. So I think it puts us ahead.
For you specifically, what are some things you want to clean up this week, or what's going to be your focus in practice?
Just my technique, being able to every play be the same, look the same, just having that consistency out there, being able to just have everybody's consistency as well. So that's what I say it is. What
have you learned so far about South Florida and the style they like to play with on offense?
It's a lot of tempo. So they're going to try to make sure, you know, we're getting lined up. So in practice this week, got to make sure everybody's getting lined up before the offense does. So we shut the tempo out, then it'll be a different game. We'll be working from there.
Something that's really new in college football this year, you talk about getting lined up correctly. Deontay Lawson has the headset in his helmet, so he's hearing from Coach Womack. How does he relay to you guys where you're supposed to go? Are you still looking for the sideline for very much? How'd that play out first game?
It was a little different in the beginning when he couldn't use the helmet, and then we ended up being able to use it. Just using signals sometimes, or Deontay just telling us to call from where he is. We just got to run over to him, line up, get the call from him, then we go from there. And I think he does a really good job with that.
You've, of course, played in front of some huge crowds, whether in bowl games, playoff games, and obviously your home games at the University of Michigan. But how'd you like game day here in Tuscaloosa for the first time?
It was an amazing feeling. I could feel it just from warm-ups. Even though it was raining, there was still a lot of people out there. And then once the game happened, the first kickoff, and then especially being a night game with the lights, it was something else.
What else have you liked about being a student athlete here at Alabama?
I just love the Southern hospitality. You know, the weather out here is really good. You know, the food is really good. I just love the University of Alabama.
What else should our fans know about Keon Sabb?
I love to fish, and I'm a really good basketball player. I'm pretty decent. One of the top guys on the team, you know, play some pretty good basketball.
Have you done any pickup against our men's players?
No, not yet.
Okay.
But if they're into it, I'm interested for sure.
I think you could probably find a game, but I think Coach DeBoer wants you in the weight room practice.
Yeah. Not anytime soon, but after the season, it's off season for sure.
Have you found a good spot to fish in around here?
Not yet. I've been fishing a couple of different spots, but we're still looking. I'm sure I'll find some at some point.
Oh, that's good. Well, Keon, congratulations being named SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Your fine performance against Western Kentucky. We look forward to seeing you in South Florida in the rest of the year. But thank you for your time with us. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Each and every game day, the Crimson Tide Sports Network is live with our Yay Alabama booth cam. It's become so popular for people to maybe, if they don't want to listen to the television announcers, to sync up the game with the Crimson Tide Sports Network radio broadcast. YouTube is a great, easy way to do that. Also, Facebook Live, Twitter Live as well. We have had a lot of fun streaming those games live, but then it's always fun, especially for us on the crew, to look back to the highlights and see all the great moments, see our reactions to the plays that we saw from the Crimson Tide. And as you're going to watch in these booth cam highlights, we had a lot of fun on Saturday as Alabama started the season with a 63-0 win against Western Kentucky. Here's Chris Stewart, Tyler Watts on the call for our booth cam highlights.
The ball
goes in the air. Waiting under it is Messer. He will call for a fair catch and make it.
But inside the red zone is where you really have to make hay.
Two tight end look with Robbie Utes and C.J. Dupree in the ball game for Alabama. Also three wideouts. Quarterback keep. Milroe. Touchdown, Alabama. He goes left side. He walks in, and the Crimson Tide gets its first points of the 2024 season, and the first with Kalen DeMoore as the head coach. Operating just outside the Bama 22. Three wideouts left, one to the right of Finley. Gets the snap. Steps, looks, fires, picked off again. Sabb again. 20, going to his right, 25, 30, still on his feet, across the 40, down the sideline, still on his feet, still going, tight ropes, finally tripped down as he gets near the 20-yard line. Keon Sabb, his second interception, and the Tide turns away the Toppers again.
Boy, he breaks on the ball as quick as I've seen anyone. Of course, everything is in front. He's doing a good job of staying behind the wide receivers, reading the quarterback's eyes. He knows when the ball is being delivered in the right position and then breaking on the ball quickly. Needed one more block down the sideline. Come on, guys.
Miller to the left of Milroe. Gets the snap. Looking, pressure coming from the edge, steps up. Now he will look, fire, catch is made. Inside the 10, inside the 5, into the end zone. Kendrick Law, touchdown, Alabama. 21 yards. With a tight end split wide left. Milroe with time, looking, firing deep. He's got a man, wide open, catch is made, 40, 30, 20, 10, touchdown, Alabama. The deuce got loose for the first time in a Bama uniform. Ryan Williams takes it to the house, 84 yards, touchdown, Bama.
This is just an unfair advantage that Ryan Williams has on most defensive backs, and that is his top-end speed. When he is able to close in that cushion, and then you have a quarterback like Jalen Milroe who can throw the ball about 60, 65 yards. There's no safety help because of the vertical package. Bernard took away the safety. That left a one-on-one situation with Williams on the outside, and Milroe just threw it up there.
Good guy to throw it up there, too. Here's Graham Nicholson on to try his third extra point of this opening quarter. It is true, and so, too, are the conversations about Alabama's offense being pretty good. They roll the pocket right. He'll fire, it's batted down, back into his hands, and then the tackle is made by the guy who swatted the football out of the air to begin with. How about that combo for Jahad Campbell? A pass deflection and also a tackle on the play. That's just greedy. 1st and 10, Alabama at the 39-yard line of Western Kentucky. The handoff once again goes to Miller, and Miller shakes free again. 20, 15, 10-5, dives, touchdown, Alabama. 39 yards. Jam Miller finds the end zone, and the Crimson Tide adds to its lead. Bam in 2 minutes. Haynes again. Haynes in a foot race. Haynes beyond midfield. Haynes still turning. Haynes 10-5. Touchdown. Justice served 85 yards. 2nd and 10 now with 2 wideouts left. 2 right. And a single setback in Miller. Milroe looking, plenty of time. Fires across the middle. Catch is made. Williams breaks the tackle. Williams, 2 catches, 2 touchdowns, 2 electric early on. Ryan Williams, his second score. This one 55 yards, and with 1:30 to go in the first half, another touchdown, Alabama, and a 41-0 lead. 2 wideouts each side. Milroe keeps it himself. Milroe inside the 10. Milroe dives. Did he get in? He did. Touchdown, Alabama, and the Tide rose to a 48-0 lead thanks to the 21-yard touchdown run from Jalen Milroe. Make it 3 to the right as 1 comes to the right side. Young gets stacked up, keeps the legs churning, though. Did he get in? He's very close. And yes, he does get in for his first Alabama touchdown. They'll send a tight end to the right side. Single setback again is Riley. They'll hand it off to him. No, it'll be a keeper. Simpson right side. 10, 5, touchdown Alabama. Ty Simpson going 14 yards for the score. Check it, 15 yards. And Alabama extends its lead. It's now a 62-0 advantage with 10:04 to play. Alabama wins it. 10 seconds, all that's left on the clock. It doesn't really matter as the two sides are already out on the field shaking hands, including Tyson Helton of Western Kentucky and Alabama's undefeated head coach. Kalen DeBoer, 1-0, is the head man at the University of Alabama. An impressive, to say the least, 63-0 victory over Western Kentucky.
Alabama racing is back. Don't miss the opportunity to experience the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs at Talladega. Witness the return of racing on October 6th and also be part of NASCAR's biggest and baddest track. From the blistering speed on the track to the unparalleled fan access of the Talladega Garage Experience, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Tickets are on sale now. Secure your seats today for the Yellowwood 500 at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. Well, Chris Stewart was on the call for all those booth cam highlights, and he is, of course, fired up for what's coming up this Saturday with Alabama hosting South Florida. We celebrate the legacy of the Nick Saban era with the dedication of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and then he's had a front row seat to be with Kalen DeBoer, not just at Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, but also working with Coach DeBoer for his post-game television show that aired on Sunday across the state, available on demand on the Alabama Athletics YouTube page. So as we preview what's coming up tomorrow at Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa, our Hey Coach preview, we say hello and roll tide to Chris Stewart.
We've already played one Alabama football game this season, getting ready for week 2 against South Florida. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Chris Stewart. And Chris, it was great to reconnect on Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. What do you say we meet up this week at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium? Roll tide.
Roll tide, and yeah, that is something that I have definitely got to work on this week and making sure I say it, and also I ask for grace as we go through not just this weekend, but those in the future. I'm 54 years old. I've only known it as Bryant-Denny Stadium. We have a new name to work in. I'm honored that I'll get a chance to, I think, be a part of telling the story, just like you will, of what is now Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and it will be it'll be a wonderful day. We got to take care of business between the lines, which almost did not happen last year in Tampa. But hopefully it'll be a great win, a great day, great weather from 3 o'clock on, so we can finally roll out Champions Lane the right way, and then also roll out the new name for the stadium as well.
We're really excited for that. Let's go back for just a moment to Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium with Crimson Tide. As we talked about so much leading up to this ball game, there's so much new with Alabama, starting with the new head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. A lot of new faces, Chris, on the field, even some familiar faces with new numbers, but it still looked like Alabama football when we saw that 63-0 win.
Yeah, Bama won. They were impressive offensively doing it. I think that is something that Tide fans were excited to see once again, is the explosiveness that we saw many times over the last decade, especially for Alabama offense. You know, the teams had big play capability in Coach Saban's first half of his tenure, but it was more of just wearing you out. And we always talk about imposing their will. Normally you think of that on the defensive side, but Bama's offense did that for much of his tenure. The last few years, it didn't quite look the same. You had the explosiveness, which was great, but you didn't have as much consistency the last 2 to 3 years. I think this is an offense that, while I'm not sitting here saying they're going to score 63 every game, they're going to face better defenses than Western Kentucky's. But they're going to be, I think, very, very capable of the big play, which is what was such a large part of the offense Saturday. At the same time, I think they're going to just get better and better, not only in the run game, but in the short passing game with the tight ends, that's going to allow you to take advantage of what's there underneath, in addition to the deep ball that we know Bama is more than capable of throwing, especially when number 2 is the target.
In basketball, we're kind of used to you just talking about the great plays we're seeing from some young men who probably should be high school seniors, but reclassified to join Nate Oates' program. Now you get to talk about it with Kalen DeBoer's program and somebody in Ryan Williams that had quite a debut with those 2 touchdown catches.
Ryan Williams, Jaron Stevenson, first time we've mentioned those two names together. But yeah, Jaron was the guy on the basketball team that a year ago could have been a senior in Chapel Hill. Instead, thank goodness, especially in the NCAA tournament, he was playing for the Crimson Tide. And Ryan Williams, I couldn't help but think, and I think you and I even discussed it maybe on air or during a timeout, Roger, is how unfair it would have been for that young man to be playing high school football. Can you imagine most high school DBs trying to stay with him and forget trying to catch him? Guys weren't able to catch him Saturday that are, D1 athletes. It's just, it's going to be very fun to watch. Now, look, he's going to find matchups that are more challenging for him defensively. I do not expect it to be a one score per catch average as he is enjoying right now. But he is a guy that is going to stretch the field. He's going to make Alabama even more dangerous offensively because of the threat that he provides. And look, yeah, we saw him blow past everybody, probably a busted coverage, and then outrace everybody on the first score. But the second one, he had to run through 2 tackles that I thought were going to be made. And you saw, even though he's not the largest receiver, he's got strength, and he's a little bigger than he looks because of the comparison to the other players. But, being at practice, standing next to him, you realize this is not a diminutive kid by any stretch. And he's going to be tough to track down. But if you do get a hand on him, you better get a good hold, or he's going to take off like he did for that second score on Saturday.
And on the defensive side of the ball, who caught your eye with some of their plays that they were able to make on Saturday?
Not surprised, but talking about Jahad Campbell a lot, did not catch me off guard. Quay Robinson as well. I think that linebacking core as a whole is really, really good. Obviously with 2 picks, Keon Sabb was terrific. And I think the secondary by season's end is going to have a chance to be great. There's probably going to be some bust early on, still some communication issues, potentially being as many new guys as there are. But I think there's talent there. Some of it's young, some of it's just new to Tuscaloosa, but there's talent there. And I think that spot, the back of the Bama defense is going to be very, very good. And it's not going to be the weakness that maybe many thought it might be as we came out of the spring and as we saw some things maybe in the first week or so of practice.
Of course, you're getting ready for Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show coming up on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock at Bomb Powers in Tuscaloosa. You had Coach with you in person at the restaurant last week, along with Jalen Milroe. And then on game day, you got to be around Coach before the game and then after the game with his post-game television show, as well as a radio interview. Just how much have you enjoyed seeing Kalen DeBoer in game week settings and starting to adjust to his new normal of everything that he's doing with us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network?
Roger, I think the neatest thing was seeing that he's the very same guy that I've had the privilege of being around all spring and summer. Very little change in the demeanor, the approach, consistent in terms of who he is, in terms of the way he coaches, but also in terms of how he interacts with everybody. And that's really enjoyable when there's new and there's uncertainty, when there's change. That can be very difficult for any and everybody. And it doesn't mean that it's better or worse, but when it's someone who's very consistent in who they are and how you deal with them, whether it's a difficult personality to deal with, or whether it's somebody like Coach DeBoer, at least you know what to expect as opposed to somebody who's highs and lows. But with Coach DeBoer, it's been a very consistent, very calm, confident but humble presence. And I've said this before, and in fact, I've said it several times. I'm really pulling for him, not just because he's the Alabama coach, which I would anyway, obviously, but because he's so likable. And I've been so impressed with how he's handled this transition in terms of the respect for Coach Saban and what's happened before him, but also just his ability to be true to who he is in his process and his way of doing things. That's been really enjoyable, and I have no reason to believe, based on his history and Alabama's, that it's not going to be very, very successful. But I'm truly pulling for that to be the case, because this is a guy that I think, as you get to know him, or anyone gets to know him and observe him more, even if you're not an Alabama fan, it may be difficult to not be a Kalen DeBoer fan, and we're both. So that's obviously going to make us want to see him do well.
Absolutely. Look forward to having him back. Baumhauer's coming up on Wednesday, and then obviously everything coming up on Saturday. Our game day coverage, like you mentioned, weather permitting, we're going to be outside at Vector Security Champions Lane starting at 3 o'clock. And Chris, we want to see all Crimson Tide fans there as we start what's going to be a very special night for Alabama football.
Yeah, you're right. And look, it was so disappointing. First of all, as you and I know, for our friends and our colleagues with Crimson Tide Sports Marketing that had worked so hard to get everything into play. I mean, just to put it in perspective, imagine we had done all that we had and the game got canceled. So as a fan, you've planned your tailgate, and I know that happened for a lot of fans, and it got, busted up because of the shower and a little bit of a storm that came through. But man, our friends have worked so hard to put that together. And from a business standpoint, it's disappointing. But on a personal standpoint, knowing what everybody with CTSM had done to invest to get that ready for the fans to enjoy, and then we don't get to, and that included us from a broadcast standpoint. But thankfully, Tom Stipe's always got a plan B, and we were able to head to the stadium, get that done. You adjusted tremendously as our captain of the ship, so to speak, on air for the pregame, and made that work out. But we want to be out there, enjoy that fantastic setting with the fans and venue, and hopefully the Vector Security Champions Lane is going to be something we can really enjoy fully and broadcast from the stage there, and have some fun on the dedication day of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny, and also go to 2-0, most importantly, on the year.
Absolutely. So that's all coming up on Saturday. And again, don't forget Hey Coach coming up on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock, and the Kalen DeBoer Show with Chris Stewart as your host. Chris, Roll Tide, thank you so much for all the time you've given us. We look forward to seeing you later on this week.
Roll Tide, buddy. Thanks so much.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about.
Gets the win at Talladega.
Singular history and tradition, and triple header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
It was 10 years ago that Alabama won an SEC championship and played in the first ever college football playoff game in Crimson Tide history. Unfortunately, Alabama did not get the win in the Sugar Bowl that night against Ohio State, but it was a tremendous season for Alabama, with Blake Sims taking over as the starting quarterback. It was Lane Kiffin's first year as the offensive coordinator, and Blake Sims joins us as one of our honorary captains this week and our Alabama legend here on Crimson Drive to recap his career wearing the crimson and white.
Blake, first of all, it's great to have you on the show, Roll Tide, and can you believe it's been 10 years since 2014?
Man, I can't believe it, man. I mean, just I can just think about it right now, how everything I experienced and every championship we won and every snap I took, it feels like it happened all yesterday.
It really does. A tremendous year for the Crimson Tide that'll be celebrated along with so many letter winners from Coach Saban's era being on hand. I mean, how special is it that your team gets recognized on the same night we get to see the dedication of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium?
I think it makes me feel very special with being the reunion of the 10-year of the SEC championship, and also me being on the field with me being the MVP of that game. Also, I think it's very big for us, and I think it explains what that team meant to Coach Saban. For us to have this opportunity, I think we were one team that meant a lot to Coach Saban and his coaching style that he did. And I think that was one team that didn't have that many superstars as the other teams that he had. And I think that we went through a lot of adversity with me being doubted about how well that I'll do, and with the whole team being doubted, because that's when AJ McCarron and a lot of other great players and a lot of legendary players that played at Alabama had also left, and they kind of try to use that story that this was our rebuilding, because we had lost AJ McCarron and we had lost Barry Jones and a great offensive line that we had at the time.
A lot of people look to you and say, you know, this is what happens when you stick around a program, have patience, and don't freak out. Nowadays, players are going to the transfer portal with the first sign of adversity. How did you stay patient, knowing you would eventually have a moment playing for Alabama and starting?
Trusting Coach Saban's word, man, and most of all, trusting the man upstairs, trusting God, and knowing that He has my path to success is different than everybody else, and also understanding and trusting the process at the University of Alabama. I mean, that's one thing that Coach Saban speaks about tremendously times, that he says, trust the process, trust the process. I think that's one thing that we're starting to notice with DeBoer being our new head coach, that we kind of got to trust the process and believe that he's going to keep us in the same mindset and keep the same standard that we've been living by.
Get into a quarterback competition with Jake Coker. Also, it was a very new year for Alabama in 2014 with Lane Kiffin coming in as the offensive coordinator. Just how much did Coach Kiffin help you, and especially in those final moments of that battle, win the job in fall camp?
He helped me out. He helped me out so much. Emphasizing where my weaknesses was, helping me out, let me know like by my footwork, introducing me to Cameron Stroley. I think that's what made me better, and that's what made my season different, because going down to Fort Lauderdale and spending that week with Cameron Stroley helped me out tremendously, because I had a lot of questions myself of why I can't drop that ball in the hole, or why can I make my nose drop when I throw a go ball. I give a lot of praise to him and Coach Kiffin. I mean, I think it shows a big part of what he's doing with Dart at Ole Miss. Lane's a great guy, man. I think, but the relationship that me and Lane had, they gave him my comfort and willing to listen to him, because I dealt with him so many times throughout my college career.
Led to some really great performances throughout the course of that season. Obviously, Amari Cooper was a great target for you. I mean, you had to feel blessed knowing that you had him open nearly every time you wanted him, right?
No, most definitely. I'm an offensive coordinator here in Marietta, Georgia, at Mount Bethel Christian Academy. My quarterback, that's the main thing that I tell him all the time. I say, hey, we run the same offense that I ran with Lane. We run here at Mount Bethel. And I say, hey, one thing I knew and what made me a great quarterback, I feel like, is because I knew where my two open guys was. And I never was ashamed about getting him the ball. So whenever you best words from Coach Kiffin is, get the ball to the best receiver and do your job and let them get paid for what they get paid for.
That's pretty special. Led to some great games for Alabama throughout the course of that season. Any personal favorites of yours? Obviously, people look at the yardage against Florida, the explosive start against Tennessee, and obviously that Iron Bowl as well. But anything else stand out to you about that regular season?
I would say that a lot of people don't speak about, right? I have to say it's the Mississippi State game, because we was number 5. They came in to Brian Denny as number 1. Dak Prescott was having a great year. He wasn't able to be stopped, man. And I'll just say that once again, being doubted in that game and within that season, because a lot of people didn't think we was going to win that game. A lot of people thought that was going to be the time that Alabama falls and at the end of Nick Saban era. The way that me and my teammates, my brothers, the way we came together and we focused and we fought. And it was that time in that game that our back was against the wall, but we stood behind each other. And I think that game emphasized the structure and the camaraderie that we had on that team.
And then how special was that night in Atlanta when you beat Missouri to win the SEC championship?
Oh, it was very special. And the reason I say it was special because I played in that same dome in 2010 for the state championship. And I lost for going for an extra point with 2 yards away from the end zone. And so for me to come in there and get that win and get the MVP, I think that was more for Gainesville High School and less of myself. But it was great because I feel like that was the closing on my chapter of my, well, a lot of people like to say, my Cinderella story, and just doing that just showed me how much work that I put in, and if you believe in yourself and know that you can do it, anything's possible.
Anything certainly is possible. So, a championship season for the Alabama Crimson Tide with you at the helm in 2014. What are you most proud of about your football journey after your Alabama days and now getting involved in high school coaching?
The most thing that I'm proud of myself, man. I'll say that I'm proud of myself because the adversity that I overcame, that I couldn't do without my teammates, and I'm so thankful for my family and the man upstairs. Without them three things, I wouldn't be able to do and be where I am today. I have told Coach Saban sorry so many times because as a player and him as a coach, I didn't understand the things that he was trying to teach me, but some things I did grasp and some things I didn't grasp. But as a coach now, I want to pour into these kids as much as I can, just like Coach Saban paved the way for me to do.
How much are you enjoying coaching, especially being an offensive play caller?
Oh, I'm enjoying a lot. What I like about it the most about it is that I get to the things that I got cheated on or the coaches that I wasn't able to have. And I was able to have Coach Saban, Coach Burns, Scott Cochran, Coach Williams. There's so many coaches I could go on and that they taught me that I'm able to pour into these kids in the way that I've changed lives. I have the ability to change life and touching these kids, man. And I see why Lane hold his hands up just like he did in 2014, because when you see the play develop that it's about to work, baby, it feels good. It feels good.
Were you tempted to put your hands in the air on a few of those throws after you threw it like he did?
Come on, man. I was. But, with Coach Saban, that's what, it's crazy you say that because we was watching the game and nothing bad on the team that's going on right now or Coach DeBoer. But we saw some of the kids holding their hands up and we saw a little bit of celebration. So me and some of the players was together this past week and we was like, yep, Saban has left the building.
Well, he's going to be in the building coming up. Again, it's going to be a special night recognizing the 2014 SEC champions and then, of course, dedicating Saban Field. Blake, we're thrilled you're coming home to celebrate this with all of us here in Tuscaloosa. Just thank you for your time today on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Safe travels, and we can't wait to see you on Saturday. Roll Tide.
Yes, sir. Can't wait to be there. Roll Tide.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR, and NASCAR's biggest and baddest track is back. Don't miss out on a weekend full of NASCAR playoffs action this fall. Racing returning to Talladega Superspeedway, October 4th through the 6th. Purchase your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. Fun conversation with Blake Sims, and now we go to another legend that we're going to have for you each and every Tuesday on this show, Corey Reamer, former Crimson Tide linebacker who helps us out in some of our pregame and postgame coverage on game day on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. He's with me every Monday night, Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. If you live in Birmingham, maybe it's tough to get down to Tuscaloosa during the week for Hey Coach, come on and join us on Monday night, 6 o'clock. We're always there. We always have a great crowd on hand. It is always a lot of fun. The enthusiasm has really been there recently for Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is a segment we call Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind, letting you look back at some of the key moments from last night's show, and the full show is available to watch on demand on our YouTube channel. But here's the best of last night with Corey Reamer and I at Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills with Crimson Tide Rewind. Corey, I know we were at Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday. It felt like the return there with a 63-0 win against Western Kentucky, but this really is the start to Alabama football season. Crimson Tide Rewind on Monday nights.
That's right, exactly. We're kicking it off finally, officially now. This is it. I tell you what, it was a great way to kick off the season, but it had such a completely different feel than the last 17 years that we've had Coach Saban around. This program is just under a different leadership. I thought it was just watching the broadcast, watching it on TV, watching the players run out. They kept a lot of things the same that we're used to seeing, just running out of tunnel. Music's the same, but coaches are different, players are different. This whole new world of college football just brought a whole different feel to this past weekend, not just in Tuscaloosa, but across everywhere with some of the players that were on our roster last year now playing at other schools, and we got new guys in. We're all trying to learn a lot about each other, add in a mix of whole new coaching staff, whole new schemes. It was a welcoming weekend for a new era for Alabama football.
And coaching transitions can be tricky by nature, and a lot of times you're not necessarily inheriting the best situation, but for Kalen DeBoer taking over for Nick Saban, you're inheriting a team that won the SEC championship, made it to the college football playoff, and still so many key pieces are in place for this year.
Yeah, somebody asked me the other day, I was like, how do you think you were there when Coach Saban showed up during that transition? What do you think Coach DeBoer is going through at this point in time? I was like, well, it's a very different situation than when Coach Saban showed up. He comes in and cleans house and got everybody in the building was new when Coach Saban showed up, and he also was inheriting a team that had just gone 6-7. And we had some good teams a couple years before Coach Saban got there, but nothing like what Coach DeBoer just walked into. One of the most talented rosters in college football. He's recruited extremely well, and coming off of an incredible run, following one of the best coaches in college football ever. It's a little bit different to pick up and run with than what Coach Saban did 17 years ago. So I thought he did a great job. I was excited to see what he was going to be doing. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of new names. We're all trying to get familiar with it. This is something that, as a fan, it was hard to adjust to because it's just like, I don't know. I don't know what this is going to look like. This is all new to me, but I'm excited to see what Coach DeBoer and his staff are going to be doing. This team looked really good on Saturday, got off to a good start with a convincing win against a good team. I mean, Western Kentucky is not like they're a competitive Conference USA. They're a team that has won a lot of ball games. And to go out there and put 63 points up and get a shutout, you don't want to overstate it. But, I mean, this also might be – you look around what happened across all other places in college football, this might be what – the new football looks like with the transfer portal, NIL. Some of these teams just that used to be pretty competitive against the Power Four, maybe it's a little bit harder for them now because they lose a lot of talent if you're good one year and somebody's going to come pick you off and take you, Georgia's going to pick you up. Alabama's going to pick you up. Miami's going to pick you up. Like it's probably a lot harder for those teams, the UABs, the Western Kentuckys, to keep, solid rosters together year in and year out.
What else has really impressed you about Coach DeBoer in this transition? Because there are some things that do carry over from the Saban era, but also he is starting to put his own spin on things.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it at the pregame broadcast of he's come in and he's put his own stamp on things. He knows how he likes to do things. One of the biggest shakeups I feel like, and we talked about it, was morning practices. These guys are going out there and practice at 9:30 in the morning, and then they're going to class in the afternoons. I mean, if you're a coach that's coming in to take over for one of the best to ever do it, you're probably looking at, well, how did he do things? What was his structure? Am I going to mimic those as closely as I possibly can to try to recreate the success that Coach Saban had? But the good thing is that DeBoer's coming into an era of college football where it's completely different. Even through the last couple of years that Coach Saban has been there, things are just not the same as they used to be. You're focusing on different things. You're worried about recruiting your own roster constantly. You're making sure that the players are having a good time. And so what I was most impressed with of what I've heard about so far is that he's really kind of stuck to his guns of what he likes to do, how he likes to do things, and he's not changed his ways. And the players have really accepted that and adapted to it, and they seem to be enjoying it. A lot of music at practice. You saw a lot of pictures, being taken on the sidelines. It's like here's a proof that Coach Saban's no longer there as these guys are getting around after a turnover and they're taking pictures on the field and all this other stuff. So, he understands. It feels like he's got a pretty good grasp of what it takes to be successful in this new age of college football that we're in now. And I'm excited to see, these players have obviously responded pretty well to it.
Corey, before we go to the phones, we got to talk about Ryan Williams, the SEC Freshman of the Week. 2 catches, 2 touchdowns, and a lot of yards.
SEC Senior in high school Player of the Week. 17 years old. He's supposed to be still a senior in high school. He's out there playing and making the plays that he was able to make this past weekend. It's impressive. You lose a couple guys, some talented wide receivers from last year's team, and he steps in and you don't miss a single beat. What he was able to do, the first one was just speed off the ball. He just outran everybody. But I was really impressed by the second touchdown that he was able to make, and going up there and competing for the ball, breaking away from a couple tackles and still making plays for such a young kid. That's how college football is now. These freshmen just come in immediately ready to play. This guy's going to be something special.
I hate to put this kind of pressure on him, but, I mean, you were around for this time. Julio Jones, highly touted recruit, number one, same as Ryan Williams all throughout in a similar part of the country as well. Did it feel like this a little bit when Julio made his debut in 08?
You just knew that they were different. You've had all these guys that come in. They've got all these credentials behind them. You knew they were big recruits, but I remember when Julio showed up, and at the time, freshmen really weren't contributing very much to this. So it's a little bit different today than it was then. And Coach Saban pretty much laid the law down that this guy can help us win ball games. And he didn't have to tell us that, because as soon as we went out for the first 7-on-7, you could tell this guy was just operating on a different level. And so, you could, as soon as you saw it out there and you've heard and you've seen all the scrimmages, all the highlight reels that have come out of practice of what he's able to do, this guy's got a different gear. He's a special player. You don't want to put a lot of pressure on him, but I think he warrants it. He knows that he's got it, and we're going to try to find a way to get him the ball as much as possible, because he's just a different breed, and he's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And as he said after the ball game, Jalen Milroe wears number 4, Ryan Williams wears number 2. 4 + 2 equals
6, baby. That's it. We saw it a couple times. He had that Randy Moss stat line, 2 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'll take that every single week. If that's all we can get him, if those are the results that we get from it, I'm happy with it.
Great debut for Ryan Williams as we come to you live tonight from Baumhauer's in Vestavia Hills. Baumhauer's Victory Grill, ready for football, fun, and great food, and your big game headquarters all season long. More than 60 televisions all dialed into your favorite team's games. You'll never miss a play of the action. If you're going to the game, visit your local Baumhauer's before or after for legendary fun, legendary food, and legendary celebrations. Before we wrap up this segment of Crimson Tide Rewind, we want to go to the phones for our first call of the night, and for that, we go to Florence, Alabama, where Brad joins us now. Roll Tide, Brad.
Roll Tide, Roger. How are y'all?
Doing great. How about you?
Oh, doing great. That I was just listening and sort of stole my thunder, but I wanted to comment on Ryan Williams, and just I'd watched a couple of the clips on the YouTube, too, when they did his interview. But, buddy, just seemed like a really class act as far as in his interviews, but very impressive athlete, and how he reminded me so much of Julio in a lot of just how he come out quick, playing fast. But I wanted to say what y'all's thoughts were. I know that you had to be impressed with the stats. And then I wanted to comment on how Sabb played on defensive back with those 2 picks. I was really excited to see them come out and playing fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to reiterate what we just said, Ryan Williams coming in as such a young player, making the plays that he was able to make. He's going to be. You got a lot of weapons. Jeremy Bernard out there, the transfer from Washington. You can't have what Ryan Williams was able to do on Saturday without having some other weapons that are on that offensive side of the ball. And you saw Jeremy Bernard getting a lot of respect from the secondary from Western Kentucky, which allowed Ryan Williams to go out there and be able to make some explosive plays. But it's just fun to see when you get a guy like that. Like I said, it's just a different level of talent. He's going to be a guy that seems like he's a good leader. All these kids that are coming in now, too, they're so brand conscious. They're aware of who they are and what how they treat the media, how they treat their fans, what they've got going on externally outside of football can really propel them into careers beyond college football. And what they can do at the same time, running parallel tracks of I play football, but I saw that he's got a podcast going on as well as a freshman, 17-year-old. Those are things that we were not thinking about when I showed up on campus my freshman year. These players are just they're aware of what their opportunities are, and I think that makes them so much more mature when they show up on campus. It's like, I'm here. Let's go ahead and get this, get these opportunities going, see what we can do to make the most of it. And he's taking advantage of it. He's going to be a good outlet for a Jalen Milroe. And then with Sabb as well, stepping in and being able to play as quickly as he possibly, transferring in from Michigan, doing what he did on Saturday, making a bunch of big plays, learning a completely new system. He wasn't just the only one. It was the entire defense that were learning new systems, new new vocabulary, new schemes. We're not doing a lot more of the pattern matching man secondary schemes that we did under Coach Saban. It's a lot more zone, passing off of routes, but you saw that they looked pretty comfortable and they're playing fast. You mentioned on Saturday that swarm mentality, swarm defense is what K. Womack's going out there and trying to emphasize. And these guys were moving around and playing fast, which is fun to see from the defensive side of the ball.
What would your podcast lineup have been if you had the Corey Reamer podcast giving your unfiltered thoughts on the Crimson Tide? I mean, are we talking John Parker Wilson, Baron Huber? Who would have been your co-host?
Yeah, Preston Dial, John Parker, Baron Huber, all those guys. Brian Selman and David Ross, all those people that I was able to play with. We have Mike Johnson as well. We got a big group, Brad Smelly, that texts. We're texting all day Saturday, watching this game, trying to give our thoughts and, reminiscing on a lot of the old memories that we had and then what looks different and how we like or dislike or things that are different, whatever we're seeing. And those would be my guys. They got a lot of character.
It's just a shame Coach Saban couldn't hear your thoughts during every
those
podcast.
I come on here and I do this radio show and I keep it clean, and then the text message thread is very different. If we're doing a podcast where you can really let loose, it's more of like a Pat McAfee style of things. You probably have some guys that are a lot more colorful than what we present on the radios every single night, but it'd be a lot of fun.
We're, of course, excited to see what's coming up for the Crimson Tide on Saturday against the South Florida Bulls. And I want to remind you to join us at Vector Security Champions Lane. There you have the opportunity to purchase one of these vintage Alabama Yetis. I love this look, obviously mimicking the baseball script that you see on the Crimson Tide baseball uniforms. But these Yeti cups available at Vector Security Champions Lane, also throughout some program stands all around Bryant-Denny Stadium. So make sure you check these out. And on our Thursday show, we may even show you a special Yeti for this week only. Stay tuned for that. But again, that is always available. Vector Security Champions Lane, plus our program stands throughout Bryant-Denny Stadium. Let's take a look at what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network as we have Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR on this Tuesday, but a lot is coming up starting tomorrow night as we look at our upcoming schedule. Well, coming up, of course, we have Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show coming to you live from Baumhower's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. It should be a really fun show, starting with Ashley Johnson, the gymnastics coach, will be on hand.
Hi, I'm Keon Sabb, and you're watching Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR.
We're, of course, excited to see Milroe, as he even got to join in on the final word a week ago, so we love that. Hey Coach tomorrow at 6 here in Tuscaloosa at Baumhower's. We'll be back with this show, a Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR, coming up on Thursday as we really look ahead to what's coming up this week between Alabama and South Florida. New edition of Tide TV This Week will be available on demand on Friday on the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel, plus to our TV affiliates across the state. Then on Saturday, a special game coming up, Alabama against South Florida. 6 p.m. will be the kickoff. 3 p.m. will be our airtime as we, hopefully, weather permitting, will start the show at Vector Security Champions Lane on stage. We look forward to that coming up on Saturday, but a really special night plus special halftime coverage coming up of the Saban Field dedication that you will not want to miss. So make sure you're not only listening on radio, Varsity Network app, but watch the Yay Alabama booth cam for what should be a very special night in Alabama football history. On Sunday, Chris Stewart and Kalen DeBoer will recap the ball game with the Kalen DeBoer television show to our TV affiliates across the state, also on demand on the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel. And then we're back on Monday night, Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, coming to you live from Baumhower's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills at 6 o'clock. And then we'll start it all over again with Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR the next Tuesday. So a busy week of coverage. We'll have a lot of clips coming out from either the booth camp footage or some of the interviews we're having this week on Crimson Drive on all of our social media platforms. Just give us a follow below, and if you're watching on YouTube especially, make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on for the very latest from the Crimson Tide Sports Network. It's going to wrap up this very busy Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. Thanks to our guests, Chris Stewart, Alabama legend Blake Sims, as well as Keon Sabb, the reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Week. We have so much to look forward to with Crimson Tide moving forward to week 2 of the season, and we look forward to being back with you for this show coming up on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Thanks to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, put this entire show together, and thanks to all of you for watching on this Tuesday. From Tuscaloosa, this is Roger Hoover saying again, thanks for watching, and roll Tide.